Alright, so now I'm going to do some late game analysis, well not really late game in terms of this game, but really mid game analysis. I'm going to try and perform to you guys and tell you exactly why the teams lost the game, and do some more detailed analysis of what exactly was going on. I really like casting these short games because it means to people who are watching this that, you know what, you're not wasting so much of your time watching me talk about things during the game. If it was a longer game, I'd be able to do more of this analysis in-game. Because it's such a short game, I want to give you guys as much of the action commentary as possible, discuss exactly what's going on. And yes, I'm going to try to get better at that. I know I'm still missing things, and that's what really I want to try and do. Work on my mid-game, I'd like to call it mid-game, but yeah, work on my ability to catch all the action on the screen, explain to you what's happening, explain to you why it's being effective. But I also want to tell you a lot, as I said earlier in my replay, about what's happening at the end of the game, and why the game is lost, and why the game is won. So, let's go through this, and let's look at why exactly Scythe won this game. Now, the first reason Scythe won this game is because they had a better pick. Like I said early game, I already did prefer Scythe's lineup to XTC's lineup. We see Scythe's lineup has much more synergy. They have much more AoE damage, they have more magical damage, and they have a much more effectively pushing team. They have more long-range AoE initiation, and they have a more tanky team. We see that the Storm, the SK with the Blink Dagger, and the ES with the Blink Dagger gives you your long-range initiation to begin those team fights, to lay down a lot of magical damage. And then what it allows you to do is it allows you to also or to blink and initiate. And what often happens to initiate is when you blink and initiate, you end up dying. However, what was effective in this game is that you had almost an MYM sort of team lineup. I'm not trying to say that Scythe copying MYM in any way. Scythe's a very good team, and Hi is just brilliant in himself. But I'm just saying it's reminiscent of some MYM teams that we've seen. But we've seen a Necrolite and a Chen. So when your initiators go in, when Necrolite runs and heals everyone, we have a Chen healing everyone, laying down his penitence and that sort of thing. So it really allows him to deal a lot more damage and a lot more effective damage, and allows your initiators to tank. It allows your Storm to tank, and allows you to pick off the enemy. Because if you think about it, a Sand King ulti plus a Sand King Impale plus an SK ulti, plus an Earthshake ulti and a Fisher and an Earth Stomp, plus the Storm Panda going in, plus a heal and an ulti from Necrolite, in any team battle, is just going to be insane. There's a lot of AoE damage. And the problem here for XTC is that they never really had any way to counter it, because of the fact that Scythe was playing a very early game team, worry about the fact that we don't have any carries. XTC should have realized this, and maybe picked a better team in terms of defending. We don't see much defense being going on here by XTC, or a lot better mid-game heroes, heroes with mid-game, late-game strength, and then have a few early-game supports. This is why I didn't agree with the Crystal Maiden. She's too fragile to be effective against a team that's trying to and push you. Yes, she can nuke down creeps, but, someone like a Vengeful Spirit will, minus armor on all your Chen's creeps. Stops your push quite hectically, stuns to cancel, swaps to cancel, ultis. That's much more effective than a Crystal Maiden. You don't need the mana regeneration in terms of the Crystal Maiden. So I think XTC Musica really didn't have his picks and his bands down to the tier that Scythe had them down. What we do see, however, was that Scythe's play was very effective. In fact, their team coordination was very effective. Why do we say this? Well, we see the first tower. We know that Scythe picked a pushing, tanking, initiating lineup. What do? They picked up at least 3 complete team wipes in that game. They had a first tower in 8 minutes, the second tower in 10 minutes. There was the mid tower, then the top tower. Yes, they did trade the bot tower, but you know what, so what? They had much more effective TP support. We saw that, when SK went in the middle, 2 or 3 people TP'd in again. When your Bane Elemental picked up a triple kill within immediately of reviving when SK was still there, we had 2 TP supports coming in, turned the tide of the battle around, and almost made it, an even kill. When Sentinel picks up a team wipe or triple kill like Scourge did, Scourge didn't come back, they didn't defend, they allowed their towers to go down. We saw some great play by Chen, realizing the team battle's been won, pushed the mid tower, really a game-turning moment right over there. And we also saw roaming play by Hi being very, very effective. And this allowed them to get a lot of these team fights to be won. And yeah, and allowed you essentially a 19-minute racks. And a game being called in 21 minutes is a bit of an embarrassment to XTC, who have been known to perform much better than they are at the moment. So Scythe really didn't win that game in terms of their team play, in terms of their picking and banning, in terms of the way that they pulled off what they planned to do. Some interesting things that I'd like to point out here about the Scourge team. Firstly, is that Bane Elemental picked up 4 kills, okay? That is the most on their team. Now, one of the reasons I don't like Bane Elemental is if he picks up farm, what does he do? Because you're against a team with 1, 2, 3 disablers, 3 main disablers, and Bane Elemental is really, yes, he's nice in pub games when you pick off people, and yes, he used to be played, but in clans at the moment, but you don't really want to give him kills. If you play him as a support hero, I can get that. Yes, you can give him some early farm, get up some of his early items. But I think one of the reasons that he's not picked as a hero is that if he gets farm, what does he do with it? I mean, here he's picked up a mana boot with a Crystal Maiden aura, really just not getting it there at the moment, and I'm really not agreeing with it at all. So I don't see what Bane was getting the kills for. The kills will be much more effective putting him on the Solar Bear, allowing him to tank, putting him on the Visage, allowing him to tank as well. And that never really worked out for either of them, and so the kills that were taken by Scourge never really went to full effect in terms of getting them to the best heroes that you want the kills to go to in the first place. What I'd also like to point out here was that there was very good play early game, and what you guys should be doing is that if there is a chain pick or someone who's going to be pushing picks, we see that XTC really did the Crystal Maiden, bought early wards, planted them all over the Sentinel bush, stopping the creep pulling being done by the Earthshaker to protect your Necrorite. Also, I did forget to mention this early game, also putting 2 other wards into Sentinel bush, scouting out that Chen and stopping him from getting up some early creeps. However, what we saw was Chen managed to pick up a net creep, net troll in the early game, and still was managed to be effective. And when you realized that happened, he went, "Hey, what's up? I'm just going to go roam into Scourge's forest and rock some play over there." And pick up some creeps over there and be effective from there. And you know what, the very poor thing that Scourge did there is you realize, well, hold on, Chen's not on the map and he's not in his bush. Where do you think he's going to be? Honestly, he's going to be in your bush. He's going to be getting farm from the creeps, because that's what Chen does. And when he's in your bush, what do? When someone's chilling in your bush and he's between all of your towers, what's the first thing you do? You gang him, you kill him, you make him effective. Chen is there because Chen is one of the is a very difficult hero to play, because he's such a weak hero. So yeah, one of the key things you can do is just pick him off whenever he's trying to bush in your forest. If you lay down those wards, you're pushing him into your bush, and when you pushed him into your bush, you've got to kill him. If you don't do that, your team play simply hasn't been effective enough. Yeah, so in terms of that, I didn't really agree. I thought their warding was very effective, but they didn't do anything to back it up, to actually make use of it. Because, Solar Bear could have picked up some really good kills from that, realizing that they were in the bush. Maybe there wasn't such good map awareness. What we also see is, because of the wards being used by Crystal Maiden to stop the chain from being farmed, we didn't have the protection coming on for mid lane, the wards giving him sight, which is probably one of the reasons why he died 8 times in the game, the Solar Bear, which is probably why he struggled to get up his farm up to sufficient levels. Also, we see just a couple more other problems with the team. We see XTC only had 1 pusher in their team, and they only had individual disables rather than team disables. And so they weren't, because if you picked off individual disables, yes, that's very good, but when you have a blink initiation going on from the teams, or on from each of these heroes, or blink initiation coming in, those individual disables aren't very useful. When the Sentinel team is trying to get you all in a bunch and initiating on you in a bunch, you also need AoE disable, and that'll be much more effective than these individual disables. Yeah, and essentially, I'm not so sure that I can mention much more in terms of why they were won and lost. I think Scythe play was just much better. I think the urn being picked up on a roaming SK is a much better option. You know, roaming SK with an urn, it makes him very effective. Always got mana with his bottle, always got HP with his urn. We see, you know, very early Winsu's being picked up on the Necrolite, making him, you know, disabling once the Tropolis is taken out. You know, they basically don't have any disables on the team, or you disable the Windrunner and the team's over. So that's good. Picking up more disables for his team. So essentially they had 4 disablers rather than 3, and in an early push strat, that's exactly what you want. Storm Panda picking up the Dagon, it's really, that's almost a stomping ball in the way. It's the way we're seeing him being played more recently. 8-3 for 10. Yes, he's being played like that more recently with a Dagon as an initiator. And it's a very early game build, so as soon as you picked up that Dagon, you should realize that Scythe is trying to go for an early game win by blinking and initiating and, you know, getting the kill in that way. Chen has already spoken about his items. Earthshaker going for his ulti stick. You know, whatever. Once he got his blink trade, that's all you really need, and if he's got more farm than that, 4 for 1 for 13 with, you know, 39 creeps, he can go for his ulti stick as much as you want. Very good item on him anyway. Windrunner trying to pick up some more disable in terms of getting her Orchard Malevolence. Like, not a good item. Like, pick up a Ginsu's instead. You know, it gives you more disable, more effective disable. Yes, it doesn't give you as much damage, but it gives you more life. Really, if you're trying to carry a Windrunner against an early game team, it's not what you need to do. You know, if you try to carry a Windrunner, then you'll manage to hold off the team for long enough. Yes, you want to pick a silence with the Storm, but you can get that later. Early games, disable is much more important against a pushing lineup than an early game Orchard Malevolence. And yeah, the rest of the team, really, rest of Scourge had no items to speak of whatsoever, so it wasn't really an effective. I can't really talk much more about the items. So yeah, just in a sense, I think the Scythe outpicked XTC, and I think their teamwork and their coordination in terms of pushings and in terms of ganking lineups and in terms of TP supports was much better than XTC, and XTC really didn't get farmed up as nicely as they did, and also their picks and the way they distributed kills and the way that their map awareness was much less than Scythe was, and that caused them to lose this game. Hope you enjoyed my second commentary, and I hope you listen to, you know, the analysis I'm doing, because that's really the reason why I'm doing these commentaries, to help people, and in order to actually help myself discussing it, allows me to understand Dota better as well. So yeah, thank you.